stick with Justin Fields, or should they draft one of these young quarterbacks to replace Justin Fields and maybe try to trade Justin Fields and get more draft picks? So, Carl, we're gonna kick this one off with you. All right. So, Carl, what
Cool.
do you
All
think
right.
is going on?
So I think that is the right move. I think you do stick with Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields gets unjust amount of scrutiny for the way he plays. When if you look at some of the runs he's had, he's been trying to stay in that pocket, trying to look for somebody, but the pocket break down and he got to take off. Now it's not his fault. He could take off and make 60-yard touchdown runs and be electrifying. He just got it. I mean, it is what it is. I think you trade that pick. And now this is why I say I'm going to bring the Colts up later. I think you do trade that pick with the Colts. Let the Colts get whatever quarterback they want between Stroud and Bryce Young. Please don't choose Will Levis. And then you drop back to that full spot. You might get another second-round pick from the Colts and maybe a first round next year because you are trading the number one pick. So you can get a first round next year, the first round this year, and maybe a second round. Draft the guy off the edge. I was going to say with the fourth pick overall, you draft a guy like Jalen Carter, but we see Jalen Carter just had the whole article come out today about how the cause of death with the guy where he was riding with. So who knows how that's going to affect his draft stock. So maybe you can get a guy like Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, come off the edge, explosive athlete, maybe teaching some pass rushing moves. You do have a history of having guys come off the edge in Chicago. Now with like Khalil Mack, you have Robert Quinn for a minute. I'm blanking on Brad's name, but Leonard Floyd at one point. So you have the ability to coach up guys at that DN spot or the edge spot. So just trade back, give Phil some weapons. Maybe go after a guy like I don't want to say his name because that's what I want, but Jordan Addison, JSN, maybe even the Zay Flowers. Go out there, get Justin Fields some help, build the trenches, and give Justin Fields a fair shot to show what he can really do. Because if you look how he played in the NFL and look how he played at Ohio State, it's completely different.
Okay. Javon, talk to us. Who you got?
I agree with Carl. I think it is the right move. Justin Fields has showed you that he's electrifying. The Bears have allowed the most. I think they allowed the most sacks last year. Justin Fields got sacked the most between him and Russell Wilson, I believe.
It was up there.
But yeah, it's bad. My only thing is if you do trade the number one pick, don't. This is what I'm gonna say. For the sake of Justin Fields, be more like the Bills and not like the Ravens. Sorry, Carl.
Oh no, this is completely
Get
warranted.
your young quarterback a receiver to throw the ball to, a guy that's going to make him better, the guy that's going to clean up his mess ups. Because Justin Fields isn't a pinpoint passer. He's not as bad as a passer as a lot of people think he is. Because back in college, he looked decent, but he had receivers.
It's crazy.
You have to shore up his offensive line as well. Whatever you gotta do. If I'm trading my first overall pick, I'm trading with a team. And I'm getting an offensive lineman. The guy I'm looking at is the guy from Ohio State, Paris.
Fred Johnson.
Yeah, they need some big bodies out there, and I think they got one good lineman. I forget his name. But you have to give these young receivers, especially these guys that run a lot. You got to give them targets, guys that can go get the ball. I mean, his number one receiver is Mooney. He's not that big of a guy to be going up getting passes. He's more of a number two rather than a number one, if you ask me. If you look at how the Ravens are doing things, they're more of a run-heavy team, and their line is legit. However, they don't maximize Lamar's skills because they don't have no receiver that can go get the ball. They have a good tight end. Come on, man.
Yeah, nobody worry about TikTok guy number two.
He just named Claypool, man. He went from the. Come on, man. Claypool really has to show something because he had 2 good years his rookie year, and that's 2 good games his rookie year, and that's it.
I was about to say, yeah, he had the game against the Eagles where they were putting the linebacker on, bro. Like
exactly, like he had like 3 touchdowns. So yeah, they have to go get a guy like Hopkins or somebody like that. You see some frustration going on in Arizona, see if you can make some moves and make something happen. You know, I saw somebody put T. Higgins in the group chat. Hey, that's a nice big receiver as well. So I do think trading that number one pick is the best move because Justin Fields shown that he can put points up on the board. And once you get a guy that can run, he runs just as good as Lamar. And that's you never thought you would hear somebody say that. So you got to keep a guy like that.
Can
All
I
right,
address something
Coach.
real
Go ahead, Carl.
Jerry put that Bryce Young shouldn't even be considered as the top pick. Not completely disagree. But if you look at how Bryce Young was playing at Alabama with those terrible wide receivers, making off-platform throws, had Alabama. All right, look. So Alabama didn't win the SEC West not because of Bryce Young, because the defense gave up a 2-point conversion to Jaden Daniels in an overtime game where LSU offense is honestly
What is
not
score?
even good. LSU offense was not good, and they put up 36 against Alabama, and Bryce Young was matching it. It's just the defense didn't help him. I understand that he's supposed to be 5'10" and have small hands and yada, yada, yada. But, bruh, if we just going to discount college tape, why do we play college football?
Right.
Good point. All right, Coach. What do you think is going to happen?
My answer might surprise a lot of people because I know I beat up on Justin Fields pretty much the whole season.
This question was for you, Coach.
Yeah, I know. Before I get to my question, easy fix for Claypool. He doesn't need to be your number one. He doesn't need to be your number two. What Claypool need to do is he needs to be your Deebo Samuel. He needs to be your viable weapon with the ball in his hand. I don't know if anybody's paid attention to Claypool with the ball in his hand, but he's very dangerous. And he does not, I don't know him as a person that turns the ball over. I believe he has strong hands and a strong upper body. You have to get, I don't think he's a traditional wide receiver. Again, I think he's a Deebo. I think you use him. You don't have to put him in the backfield, but I think you use him in ways where he can get open behind the backfield and get in the open space, shorter passes. Everything doesn't always got to be 60 yards down the field. These coaches need to keep teaching these quarterbacks to be methodical with their weapons. You got to find open weapons. But if you can get Claypool for that kind of for those kind of plays for Fields, I think it'll be a pretty decent commodity for the offense. Now, as it pertains to Fields, again, I beat up on him all last season. I don't think he could throw, but again, shocker, I don't think Jalen Hurts can throw. But what Jalen Hurts didn't have to do is Jalen Hurts didn't have to throw 40, 60 yards down the field. He threw really good passes that got first downs. That's the most important thing about football is making first downs, okay? And no, I'm not talking about them deep balls down the field. You're not doing that every play. There's a lot of missed throws that he made over 30, 40 yards that were very inaccurate, especially going to the side. Or if you look at the ones that Devontae Smith does catch, what is always the problem? We got to figure out if he stepped out of bounds or not because
no, it's whether he dropped it.
No, but there's always ones that if you always got to check if he stayed in bounds, and then you got to figure out if he dropped it. Yeah. But again, it's not an indictment just because you can't throw 60 yards down the field. That's not my point. However, they don't have an offensive line in Chicago. I can't sit here and beat up just same way I couldn't beat up Baker Mayfield after I think what was it, his second year. When you don't have certain things going for you, you can't expect a guy in his first and second year to be this extraordinary offensive player. It's just you got those special ones, and everybody ain't special. That's the point. Everybody's not special. But if through good coaching, through good play calling, because that's not what he had with Nagy, you can do things with guys other people say they couldn't do it with. Some people, hey, look, you got to give it a try. You can't just dump the kid off because 2 years look bad. But what did he have those 2 years? What offensive line protected him those 2 years? What weapons outside of Mooney did he have for those 2 years? What running back stayed healthy for him in those 2 years?
Stay healthy.
Where was the defense at for those 2 years? And by the way, let's not forget Justin Fields has been on the field all of this time. As much hits as he's taken. I'm honestly surprised the dude is still standing. He's a very tough kid. He's not my favorite player. I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like I'm bandwagoning on Fields now. That's not going to ever happen. I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl. He may make it to the playoffs maybe once or twice in his career. He's not going to sign a big contract. It's not going to happen. He'll get franchise tag more than anything. However, this year alone, the Chicago Bears have put themselves in the best position to be a successful organization, which has been an issue for them since they signed twice Jay Cutler. This is the time where they can make some really smart business strategic moves I mean, the general manager could win an award for whatever he does between now with this pick, the free agent frenzy, and in the draft. He's got a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do because, again, they need an offensive line. First thing you need to do is in this free agent frenzy, you better go sign you an offensive lineman to a nice contract. That's your first thing. You need to go get this guy protection. You need to get him a moving guard or somebody that can protect his blind side, but you got to go pay for that. That's the first thing I think you need to do. After that, it's the draft. That's where you use your pick. You take that first pick, you trade it away, and you collect on whoever wants that pick. Because you have to understand, most of the time we really don't get this kind of action about this pick until it gets close. We're talking about this right now. It's very early. Like, people just got cut, and we're actually already infusing a draft pick in more of NFL news conversations than the people that have been released. And there was a lot of releases. This is very smart for them because that means there are a lot of hungry teams that want this pick, and they're going to pay. I'm not saying you're getting 3 first-round draft picks. I'm pretty sure you can get a first and 2 seconds, a first and 3 thirds. Like, there's a lot they can do with this one pick, and they can collect at least 4 rounds of picks, 2 for 1 year, 2 for another, however they want to do it. But they can actually collect collateral on this one pick that is actually going to help them, because no matter what they do after they trade the pick, they need offensive linemen. I've seen enough out of that defense that they can also make free agency moves out of that to get defensive players to sign, and they can also still trade for players. That's still in the works before anything else before training camp happens. So you still can trade. There's a lot that can still go on where they can actually really focus heavily in the draft on getting that offensive line fixed. I've seen enough in the defense that I think they can sustain a year without getting too crazy, unless there's just a steal you take. You take those, but focus on the offensive line to protect this quarterback. Because one thing I know is if you protect him, he's going to run. If you can protect him, he actually can get the ball in the open field where it needs to go, as long as the coach isn't devising crap that you're trying to make him sit in the pocket and be this glorified pocket passer that he's not. Like, you're trying to sabotage him. No, find playbook. There are playbooks for every quarterback. You have to find what works for the Bears team and what works for this quarterback. The Bears team is a running organization. They have been for many years. That has never changed. It didn't even change when Jay Cutler was there. They still were a heavy running football team. And when they didn't run the ball, they looked like trash. This time they have it. They just got to get more in the passing game. And it doesn't need to be 40 passes. You don't need Justin Fields throwing 40 passes. You need him to be protected, so the 22 passes you give him can be 18 and 22 and not 7 and 22. So trading this draft pick, I believe, is the best. It's the best option for the Chicago Bears, and it puts them in a better position to be a possibly above 500 team with Justin Fields this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to say something real quick. The thoughts and views about Jalen Hurts do not reflect me. What Coach said about not being able to throw the ball. I just want that to be known.
Yeah,
I didn't say he couldn't throw the ball.
You actually said that.
Then I'm about to say you verbatim. We said
word for word.
Those are not my thoughts and opinions.
Hey, look, the Chicago Bears defense, right? They were the worst in the NFL, giving up 27 points per game. Out of 17 games, 13 games they gave up 25 points. 15 games they gave up at least 20 points. Terrible. All right. And then on top of that, you got no offensive line, no weapons. I mean,
what team doesn't give up 25 points in a game now?
I mean, a lot of teams.
Yeah.
They lead the NFL with giving up 27. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams.
Oh, yeah, giving up 27. Okay.
Only 5 teams give up more than 25 points a game.
I don't think that's something you wake up and just go and score 25 on any defense.
The Vikings,
when do those points come? When do a lot of those points come though?
But they be down, so I mean that means they can't say garbage time.
Justin Fields had games when he had like 38 points and they still lost by 12.
That's true. No, that's true.
Justin Fields, I mean, with the weapons.
Again, this is what I don't think they did last year was made enough moves defensively, like.
They gave up a lot defensively too.
Yeah, they gave up a lot of
Yeah,
players.
Khalil Mack out of there.
Yeah, that
How-
a lot of that.
Did you
give
I
out
like
Robinson
what they
every
worked
season?
with the youth that they had. I like
And
what they worked
Roquan.
with the youth.
Yeah,
Roquan.
Roquan. They didn't pay Roquan. Thank you.
Robert
Dump
Appreciate you.
Roquan, dump Robert Quinn. No, they just
They dumped a lot of the older
like I
guys.
said,
They dumped a lot of the older guys.
basically
Yeah, that's
whole
why
defensive line.
That's why I went more so edge rush with Tyree Wilson at the 4th pick. I'm not mad at what Javon said with Paris Johnson. That also makes sense. I think either one of those you can't go wrong. But I just, man, that defense, man, it's Jalen Johnson at corner. I did like the young guy Travis Gibson off the edge. I think he had like 10 or so sacks, but that's pretty much it for Adrian Amos. No, I'm lying. I think he's gone. Excuse me, the Packer. Adrian Amos is drafted to the Bears. Excuse me. But yeah, that's about it.
So then, what would you focus on first? If
They
you're
were
Chicago
last in
Bears, 'cause you
sacks
got-
last year too.
if you're,
Last in sacks.
huh?
They were
It's-
last in sacks last year. They only sacked the quarterback 20 times the whole year.
Yeah,
That's
it's
hard.
tough. It's tough
So-
because
If
again,
you have to protect this quarterback if he's supposed to be your future.
yeah. That's why I say it's tough because again, they were last in sacks like Joe said, but they were also like worse than giving up sacks. So it's like, is
Can I
you
ask
see what
y'all
I'm
this?
saying? It's a dilemma.
Go ahead, Javon.
Do y'all think Justin Fields is better than all the quarterbacks in the draft right now?
In this
No.
draft,
Yeah.
no.
No, I don't.
But right now you can say that because he had 2 years experience in the NFL. You
I
know,
don't. I think
so-
he's saying like potential wise.
well,
Like,
I think
for
Bryce,
instance, will he go further than any of the quarterbacks in the draft this year? Is what he's saying.
I think Bryce Young is going to have a good career. I think he's
I
a
do
winner.
too. I think
he's-
both of them.
I think he's a winner.
I think
Yeah,
they would
I
all
think
make
so.
it. I think if 5 quarterbacks were drafted, they would make it to the playoffs before Justin Fields did.
It's just that they don't have. Well, if they trade this in Justin Fields somewhere, they will get assets depending on where they trade them to. If they trade number
Who'd you
one.
trade?
So either way, you're right. That's a good question, Javon, because if they decide to go with a draft pick, they can still get
A quarterback.
Quarterback.
assets
If they,
given
well,
up.
if you
Justin
look
Fields.
at if you go on the thing, they don't even have the Bears listed as having a draft pick, so it's already on the market.
Yeah, I
It's not
kind of
even,
saw
when you
that.
go look at the draft order, the Bears are. It's not even there anymore.
But they can still get one of those quarterbacks by trading the number one pick, believe it or not. You know,
Well,
but
if you trade
I
One of
doubt
them,
it.
if one of them fell to the second round, yeah.
No, you're
Well,
talking about
you can
get it in
trade.
the first round, right? Yeah.
Within the first round.
'Cause
Oh,
some
well, yeah,
people-
yeah, yeah. It depends on
some
where you
people-
get it.
Some people want their guy. Some people want their guy, and they like to
Because
make
sometimes
sure
you can just
they're
swap
get that
picks.
first.
Really, you can still be in the first round and just swap places.
Yeah, because the Texans they're
That's
looking
true.
for a quarterback. The key is it's a mind game. That's all it is. See, Kyle Shanahan don't work the system, even though they gave up a lot. But
So could we see Carr over there without them having to draft a quarterback? The Texans?
who?
Carr.
I don't think he's going to
But he-
Houston. He just don't got enough.
No, Carr going
don't
to
have
the
enough.
Saints or the
He
Jets.
want to go to a
No, yeah, he's going. I actually think he's going to the Saints. I'm
Saints
gonna
or
stick with the
Jets?
Jets, but I'm thinking the Saints.
He might go to the
After
Jets.
y'all's
I
explanation.
like the Jets more than the Saints. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just.
But I agree with Javon with the whole New York media situation, and two, it's less on your mind for him if he goes to the Saints and deal with that media, than dealing with New York media.
But if he's thinking about my opinion, if he's thinking about that,
You
get him
have
out
to
of
go
here.
to New York. But you
But it
cannot.
goes both ways. You win in New York, then what?
You
That's
do
true.
well, the media is yours if you win in New York.
Exactly. It's just like being a Cowboy.
But that's the thing.
If you win,
You
get
have to
praised
have
like
the
crazy.
balls to want to go to New York. Do you
That's what
understand?
I'm
Like
saying.
Aaron
If
Rodgers,
he's not that
Aaron
type of guy.
Rodgers, himself. Aaron Rodgers just takes the. It's
Man,
because it's him.
he gonna be a Packer, man. Aaron Rodgers is playing.
He
games.
goes to New
Yeah,
York
I'm not
media. The
following
New
that.
York media will not destroy him. They
Anthony
won't.
Richardson.
Yeah, they
No,
want.
he is an athletic freak. I agree with what Jerry's saying. I think he is going to blow the combine mind because he is an athletic specimen. But
Right.
in terms of a whole quarterback, bro, to me, he's a 3rd round pick.
He looked. I ain't gonna lie. He remind me of Jalen Hurts. So if he work on his mechanics on that stuff,
Anthony
he can be
Richardson
better.
reminds you of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I mean Jalen Hurts. I mean he wasn't a great thrower and all that stuff, and he's an
He's more
athletic guy.
polished than Anthony Richardson in college.
But
Yeah,
I
he
get the
probably
craziness for
is.
saying it.
But Anthony Richardson, he remind me of Jalen Hurts. If I had to compare somebody in the NFL to Anthony Richardson, it would be Jalen Hurts. Coming to the
And
draft.
I'm gonna tell you the big difference of why I disagree. Decision
Why?
making. Jalen Hurts' decision making was
Alabama
off the
quarterback.
charts better than Anthony Richardson.
Oh, now that's one thing. He is.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, And also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.